Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Frontiers of Knowledge of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We are beset with energy crisis. If you look at the energy scenario, you are shocked. The prices of the gas are going through the roof. Coal is not available. So much so that China is stopping its thermal plants. India has very less reserves of coal, and the energy crisis is likely to be a problem. Europe, which had closed all the thermal plants, is reverting to the thermal plants. So coal is becoming again the center of energy. Then what's going to happen to this world? I can foresee an impending global energy crisis. What would happen is mostly thought to be unpredictable. But is it really so? When you analyze the global energy crisis, the various parameters, and the possibilities and the probabilities, you can see that next year, not later than next year, there are only four paths leading out or resulting from this global energy. This worldwide energy crisis unfolding has thrown markets into unprecedented turmoil. As I said earlier, the natural gas prices in Europe are record high. In China, the thermal coal futures in the stock market are all-time high. And Bank of America has provided insight to the people. But then really speaking, the way this worldwide global energy crisis is unfolding, amidst a surge in demand and ongoing supply crunch has thrown the oil and the gas markets into unprecedented turmoil. As a matter of fact, this was a golden opportunity for Canada in general and Alberta in particular. But then the political machinations have been a barrier towards converting this golden opportunity into no opportunity. If you look at the oil prices, they are more than 60% higher than last year. And looking at the West Texas Intermediate crude, it's hitting a fresh 7-year high today. 7 years the price has not been that much. The cost is going. But then if you go to the fuel pump to fill up your car, you feel the pinch. As I said, this is not confined to Canada or to USA. In Europe, natural gas prices record high, and the wholesale prices on spot markets have tripled this year. In China, the thermal, as I said, they have tripled this year as well. In India, somehow or the other, the energy prices are not quoted on the stock market. But looking at the way things are going, there are some scenarios. There's always a hope in each scenario that there'll be cooling off of the prices. It may happen, may not happen. And many times what happens is it goes very high, then cools a bit, and that bit cooling provides people with a false sense of relief. The reality is not that. So what I foresee as the four paths emerging out of the present crisis are: the first one is a dangerous one. That possibility is there, the probability is there, and the probability is almost 70 to 80%. As a matter of fact, the energy crunch today is leading to run up in oil prices between 2007 and 2008. If you remember, at the start of 2007, Brent crude was just $50 a barrel. Towards the end of the year, in 2007, it came 95.98%. But again, it did not drop down. At the end of the day, it dropped down by 50 cents. But by July 2008, the prices soared to all-time high of nearly $150 a barrel. And then Great Recession took place, prices crashed. Now, if a similar spike in oil happens again, and the likelihood is there it will, then the major industrial firms have no alternative but to sharply reduce production, their activities, or to shut down. And that would lead to recession, unemployment, hunger, food. So what do? Be prepared for the recession by the beginning of 2023, 2025. As a matter of fact, this recession is on the cards, and most of the people, entrepreneurs, businessmen, are already trying to not expand, to curtail their operations. And many businesses, especially in Europe, have already halted or reduced manufacturing. That this is going to be a social upheaval. At a time, we just out of the, or not even out of the pandemic, this crisis would add to the common people's problem a lot. Now, this is one scenario which can emerge, economic crash. But then, human beings are very inattentive. The second scenario is a bit more hopeful. There might be more production and substitution, innovation. Substitution, means of production changing, supply chain system changing. An increase in the price of any good. Normally what happens? The people who are very conservative, they reduce the production, knowing that anything which goes up comes down. But then there are speculators always. So when the prices go up, those speculative type of producers ramp up their production, or they find more affordable alternatives. For example, just look at it. Obama had stopped shale exploitation, getting oil from shale. And now the US shale companies have indicated they plan to invest more money next year in domestic production. They know oil is in the short supply. And America is not getting oil from Canada, which it can get easily. The supply in Middle East is also dwindling, wars and everything. So this is a huge opportunity for the innovation and exploitation of the shale exploitation for oil. So those companies, the shale companies, who are planning to invest more in production can be a life-saving, but they don't appear ready to unleash a flood of oil. They know that the conundrum of using oil is now spotted. People believe it to be harmful to the world. So though the need is there, there'll be righteous groups who would always say, no, this should not be done. It's better to go back to nature, but not use oil. So they don't appear ready to unleash a flood of oil as investments remain constrained. The shareholders say, no, don't invest more. It's an uncertain future. So this second alternative is there, but it's not very, very apparent that it can happen. And meanwhile, as natural gas and coal prices soar, some companies are already shifting to using oil. Now, that shift would add around 500,000 barrels a day to the global demand. And that's the estimation of the International Energy Agency. Now, 500,000 barrels a day are required globally. You can well imagine if Alberta wants to make use of its oil in the global market, which it's not. It has been all the time dependent on USA, and US is tightening the screws. So this was, as I said, a golden opportunity for Canada, but it might go by default. The third alternative is what we call El Nino effect, or the global warming itself. Every disease creates its own antibodies. So does global warming. The winter may not be as cold, as brutal as predicted. So when it's a warm winter, it will temporarily cure the problem. It may not cure it, but it's a palliative. Because in winter, in countries like Scandinavian countries, like Canada, like parts of USA, Russia, and all those Arctic nations and all those Antarctic nations, where winters are an issue. If the winters are not as brutal and as harsh, the demand for the energy would not be that high. Now, what has happened is that the global energy prices are rising just ahead of the winter. Winter has not come in as yet, but the prices are rising. Now, when winter comes, the demand spikes for the natural gas and coal to heat. So buyers across the globe now, what are they doing? They are competing over a limited supply, even while the energy prices are very high. As a matter of fact, US Energy Information Administration, day before yesterday, warned Americans to brace themselves for a heavier heating bill. Now, what would happen if you suddenly experience a warmer than expected winter? Demand will slide, and the problem, according to analysts, would be momentarily cured by chance. So this is a very dicey third option. The fourth is a scenario which is again heavily loaded. There might be, and there can be, possibilities there, hike in the interest rates. And the purpose of that would be to slow down the aggregate demand. This possibility that the central banks across the globe, by thinking unitedly, may come up with this suggestion and accept this suggestion, which has already been floated by 3 international central banks. UK is in favor, Federal Reserve in US is in favor, Germany is in favor, but the other countries are still holding out. So if the central bank see that the possibility is there that the demand is getting out of control, then to slow down aggregate demand, they'll increase the interest rate. And allowing for somewhat higher interest rate and reducing quantitative easing would result in cooling overall growth and energy consumption. So it's a double-edged knife. Yes, energy use would be reduced, but the growth would also be reduced. Now, do the people want lesser growth? Because the lesser growth automatically means more unemployment. It automatically means less availability of products for consumption. So what would happen? As I said earlier, the Federal Reserve officials have already signaled that they are going to reduce bond purchases next month and start hiking rates next year because they think that the economy is likely to rebound and inflation would stay elevated. Look, this is a very, very speculative action on the part of the Federal Reserve because even if the inflation is high, the moment interest rates are there, it cuts into it and the poor consumer is caught between the millstone and the cornerstone. Reason being, on the one side, the inflation is reduced, but it's reduced at the wholesale level, not at the retail level. And then unemployment specter is there. So he loses a job, loses the income, and then the prices remain still high. So this is again, as I said, a double-edged sword. Would the Federal Reserve or the Bank of Canada or the central banks anywhere indulge into it? You see, one thing these Johnnies sitting in the position of power forget, and that's the most important thing. They forget that you can print dollars, you can print euros, you can print rupees, you can print pesos, but you can't print commodities. Once you start decreasing the production, once the level of production is decreased, to increase it is not just going to the printing press and going ahead with the printing. No, it takes time. The resources have to be mobilized, the workers have to be retrained, the markets have to be re-explored. The whole gambit has to be started. So that's not as easy as printing paper. So these four scenarios are emerging out of the global energy crisis. And I talked of this because this is something which should be taught. But when I look at the media, when I look at the opinion makers, when I listen to the political leaders, not a single one of them, not even the Wall Street Journal, not even Forbes, have, or not even economists have thought of this. What's going to happen? Everybody says, well, this danger is there. Energy crisis is there. Then what? What are going to be the repercussions? And how is it going to impinge common man like you and me? That's a $1,000,000 question that needs to be faced. And the sooner we accept that the possibilities are limited, only four, one of them very serious, one bit hopeful but very dicey, the other two are just first aids, shall I say band-aids rather than the treatment. But still, it's better to be prepared for all the eventualities. And the danger is very near, lurking in the wings. What happens? We'll see. Thank you.